Beneath the red sun of Cunaxa, victory tasted like old iron. The Greek mercenaries stood in silence among the Persian dead as the news of Cyrus the Younger's death spread like an icy wind. They had won, but they were doomed. That night, the campfires didn't cast normal shadows. They stretched like deformed arms across the sand. Many swore they heard footsteps circling just outside the ring of light, though no enemy appeared. The Persian Empire had let them win, only to slowly devour them. The retreat began at dawn, and with it came an unseen terror. In the narrow mountain passes, men heard their own names whispered from the rocks. Some followed those phantom voices and were never seen again. Perseus, a hardened veteran, watched a young hoplite fall to his knees, begging for his long-dead mother, just before an arrow appeared from nowhere and pierced his throat. The Persians were attacking, yes, but something far older seemed to march alongside them, a presence that fed on their despair. Days bled into weeks. The sun beat down, and the nights brought a chilling cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. During one night watch, Perseus saw Ita flicker in the corner of his eye. A tall, gaunt figure, darker than the night itself, stood atop a distant ridge, its form impossibly thin, its silhouette cutting a wound in the starry sky. It wasn't human. It watched them, unblinking, a silent predator waiting for the herd to weaken. He blinked, and it was gone. It told no one who would believe him. They already thought he was half-mad from the strain. The whispers grew bolder, imitating the voices of fallen comrades. "Come, Alexis," a voice would call, sounding exactly like a friend who had died days earlier. "The water is sweet over here." Men began to vanish, not just in battle, but during the march, swallowed by the empty landscape. The army's discipline, the iron will of the Spartans, began to fry. Soldiers would stare into the distance, their eyes wide with a terror no one else could see, before turning their own swords upon themselves. Each death felt less like a casualty of war and more like a sacrifice to the hungry land itself. One evening, as they camped in a desolate valley, the air grew unnaturally still. The usual sounds of the wild insects, the wind all fell silent. Then, a low humming began, a sound that resonated deep in their bones. It grew louder, seeming to come from the very ground beneath their feet. Men clutched their heads, groaning in agony. Out of the darkness, figures began to emerge. They were not Persian soldiers. They were twisted, shadowy things, their limbs moving at impossible angles, their faces indistinct blurs of nightmare. They didn't carry weapons. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was a weapon that shattered the mind. Perseus drew his sword, its bronze glinting in the firelight. It stood back to back with Xenophon, the young Athenian leader, who was trying to rally the men. "What are they?" Perseus rasped, his voice tight. Xenophon's face was pale, but his eyes were resolute. "They are fear," he replied, "and we will not be broken by it." He raised his voice, a commander's roar cutting through the humming. "To me, Greeks, form the phalanx. We have faced men. We have faced kings. We will not fall to shadows." The men, driven by the familiar command, moved on instinct. Shields locked, spears bristled, and they formed a circle of bronze and courage in the heart of the encroaching madness. The shadowy things hesitated, their advance slowing as the Greeks chanted their war paean, a song of defiance against the dying of the light. The battle that night wasn't fought with spears against flesh, but with will against despair. As the first rays of dawn touched the mountain peaks, the humming faded, and the figures dissolved like smoke. They had survived, but the memory was seared into their souls. They were no longer just soldiers. They were the 10,000 who had walked through hell and stared into the abyss. Their long march home had just begun, and they knew the shadows would be following. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy stories that blend history with horror, make sure to like and subscribe for more content. See you next time.